What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? It's your boy Domuto. We back with another video. Today we are watching What If Goku Was in DC Part 11. Yes, sir. This story is great. I'm trying to remember what happened in the last one. Bro, he met up with Broly. Broly's on his way to Earth. Goku is on his way to discover himself. I don't know, something like that. But yeah, I'm ready to get into it. Let's go.
In the time since the resurrection of Bloodhaven and Coast City, things on Themyscira had gathered more attention from the public. Lex
Shout out to the
Luthor,
Geek for Fun,
in
like
his
I'm
bid
subscribed.
for president, had continued to stoke outrage about Vegeta, the Saiyan Prince's seeming lack of accountability for the destruction he brought upon the Earth.
I believe in second chances. I believe in the spirit of the common good, that humanity, for all its faults, can strive to be better. Millions were given a second chance thanks to the efforts of our heroes. And yet, some thing, an alien warmonger, with the blood of countless people on its hands, shares that same gift as the men and women that he slew. How is that fair? How is it fair that your place of work, your school, or your home is a pile of rubble, while it gets to live on an island of beautiful women? I respect my former teammates, but at times like this, I question if they have forgotten the principles we once stood for. Monsters like this, Vegeta, need to be held to account by the people they've wronged, not be allowed to take it easy on Paradise Island.
It was because of sentiments like that one that Diana had settled on something she was unsure of. Vegeta had killed someone she loved. She understood the anger at him the world was feeling, but she was able to look past that anger, to see the person behind those actions and what led him there. Forgiveness remained a distant ship, but one that at least had a chance of coming in. For her. What she had planned, however, was a test. To see if someone else could help that ship. Someone Vegeta had hurt on a much more direct level. While Diana was a surviving victim of the prince's actions, her lover was murdered by the man himself.
Yep.
But thanks to Carl Rayner, Steve Trevor had been given a second chance at life. If Steve could find his way to forgiveness, maybe the rest of the world would be able to as well. Diana had taken the time to brief Steve on her interactions with Vegeta thus far. She told him that she believed Vegeta had the potential for good. He was a proud soul, but one buried under a life of trauma. Steve remained dubious about this, but for Diana, he was willing to give the Saiyan a chance. And so, they entered the corridor that held Vegeta's cell. They found the prince training. He had been doing so without end since seeing what Kakarot had achieved.
Super Saiyan.
Vegeta didn't speak a word of it to anyone. No one else knew that a low class had achieved the legendary form of Super Saiyan. Vegeta would continue to train and push himself to his limits, his hands bloody from working them to the literal bone. Unbeknownst to Wonder Woman and the Amazons, his hatred for Kakarot was even pushing the magical armor to act against him, something the prince welcomed. Resistance to make him stronger. And while it was far from what the armor was truly capable of, it was assisting him in growing a tolerance for the magical bindings.
Vegeta, I'd like you to meet someone.
Hi, Steve Trevor, agent of Argus. I just got back and Diana figured we should meet, though I guess we kind of already did, huh?
Yes, you met my boot. Or so I'm told. I don't remember everyone I step on.
Vegeta!
Seriously? I died and that's how you greet me.
Damn.
You know what? I get it. Little guy like you probably got stepped on a lot. Walked all over, I bet. Makes sense you want to
Damn,
lash
he on
out
your head,
and do it to
Vegeta.
others. Dinah said she thinks that you can change, that you can be saved. but you're not even willing to apologize for killing me?
Steve!
We were warriors on opposing sides. I killed you, you attempted to do the same to me. There's nothing to apologize for. Unless you wish to relive it, I recommend not standing against me in the next battle.
So just waiting for another battle, huh? I get that. Hell, I was like that. Everybody was an enemy. Even when I was stuck right in this cell.
Are you comparing yourself to me?
No, because you'd come up short. That's no small surprise, though. At least when
You on
I
your
was
ass,
sitting where
Vegeta.
you are, I was fighting for something good. Every day I was fighting to protect people, even when I was being used by my own government. What brought you to Earth, huh? Serving some monster out in space? Or is it deeper than that? Yeah, I knew guys like you. Signed up for themselves, because they wanted to fight. They wanted the dirty work of Black Ops, because it's the only thing they were ever good at. I can smell it on you.
And what are you? The brave fool who thinks he's fighting for good? Let me share with you what a true warrior knows. There's no good in a war.
Okay, enough. This isn't working, and it's clear that neither of you are ready to meet. Steve, let's go.
Not ready? Diana, you're too trusting. I can tell there's no hope for this guy. He's FUBAR.
Foobar,
now I
yeah, he on
remember.
your ass.
It took me a while, but it's the scent that did it. When you were under my heel, I remember the fear.
Vegeta, silence. Now. Steve, come on.
Incredible. I don't know why she's wasting her time on you. You don't deserve her.
Well, damn.
Diana and Steve began to talk in another room, but before they could truly unpack what had just happened in there, a war horn sounded, and the princess realized that there was an attack force landing on the south beach. Diana told Steve to wait where he was, and that she'd be back once this was dealt with. Steve offered to come and fight with her, but she said that if anything happened to her, he'd be the last line of defense if this unknown enemy was coming to break Vegeta out, or kill him. Reluctantly, Steve went back into the corridor where Vegeta waited in his cell, hoping the invasion was nothing Diana couldn't handle. Once Steve got there, he saw Vegeta peering out a window in his cell. A window that faced south. Wonder Woman arrived on the beach to find an old enemy, Giganta.
What
But
the
this
fuck?
time, she seemed to have some strange company. The telepath, Hector Hammond, one of Hal Jordan's oldest foes, and Livewire, a dangerous villain of near infinite energy,
They trying to
who'd
break Vegeta out?
fought Kakarot multiple times. Then, a face, if you could call it that, she had never seen outside of the Justice League monitors. The rogue known as Tar Pit, an amorphous blob-like creature made of Alsfat, fire, and tar. The Flash had talked about him on occasion. The other villains were just stepping onto the beach too, Scarecrow, and a flamboyant mercenary named El Flamingo.
Oh, there you go.
Doris, interesting company you've brought. What made you decide to form this newest Injustice gang?
We're more than a gang, princess. We're here on behalf of the people your little pet hurt. Hand him over and I might consider leaving your so-called paradise intact.
I see. So this not gang of sadists and mercenaries has just turned over a new leaf and are suddenly bringing in the bad guys. Well, Themyscira is a sovereign nation. We do not hand over our prisoners. Now, you will leave my home and you'll take these misguided souls with you.
Wonder Woman shot towards Giganta, but had to break her charge off to deflect a bolt of electricity from Livewire. While distracted holding the stream of current off, she was smacked down to the ground by Giganta's massive fist. Before Wonder Woman was able to rise, Tar Pit lunged at her in what was more a belly flop than a tackle. Wonder Woman was immediately consumed in the fiery mess of the rogue's body. She attempted to cut her way out, but the being reformed around each of her slashes.
Oh, damn.
The Amazon soldiers were unable to help their princess, as they were dealing with the trio of Hector Hammond, Scarecrow, and the bizarre yet savage El Flamingo.
They jumping.
While any Amazon could likely handle the flamboyant mercenary on their own, they were being gassed by Scarecrow's fear toxin and hallucinating all their worst fears. This delirious state was heightened by the twisted mind of Hector Hammond,
hell no.
who directed the hallucinations of the Amazons onto their own sisters, forcing the Amazons to attack each other instead of their true enemy, leaving them unguarded against Doflamingo. Back in the cell, Vegeta looked out onto the battle. He was beginning to form a plan, as he could smell the fear growing in Steve Trevor.
Things aren't going well out there.
Stow it.
The princess is caught in this disgusting mass of a monster, and her warriors are attacking each other.
So it's a snafu. Diana's been through worse.
Now the pale one's electrocuting her, and the giantess just stepped on her. Oh good, she grabbed hold of her foot and pulled herself out. Smart move.
See? She knows what she's doing in a fight.
Yes, now we'll see how she avoids getting into the same situation. Let's hope she figures something out before all her soldiers kill each other. 3 more of these freaks might prove too much for her.
I'm not
Damn.
an idiot. I know what you're trying to do.
Vegeta stayed quiet for a while. He knew that if he overplayed his hand, then his plan wouldn't work. He'd done enough to stoke Steve's fear.
Vegeta trying to get
Now,
out.
he just needed to wait. The battle outside continued, and every second it dragged on was a gift to him and torment to Steve. While he waited, Vegeta described the fighters he could see, and Steve named them off. Argus's files on metahuman criminals were extensive.
It seems they came with a strategy to use their tricks just to take the princess out. This all looks to be over.
Enough! Have you considered why they're here? Maybe it's to take you out, huh? You better hope Diana stops, or it might be your foot on the mine next.
If they come after me, they'll have to open that door first. And if that happens, none of them stand a chance. I suppose it doesn't matter if they kill her first. I can defeat them either way.
Nice chatter, short platter.
Would you like a demonstration? Last time you saw me battle, the view was a bit too close to appreciate.
Oh, he on your
Oh my
head.
captain, is that so? Well, let me just unlock these here bars for you, sir. I'm not an idiot. I know you just want to escape. You wouldn't help her.
Escape? This armor won't let me. The princess certainly would have told you that. I can only protect myself and others with this on. Didn't she mention that trash Orion?
Yeah.
Well, I owe her for that. And I can't escape, so really she's up against 7 opponents. 6 out there, and you.
Ooh.
Don't.
You said it yourself. All I care about is the fight. Let me balance the scales. Oh, he's got her again. Are you truly going to let her die just because you're afraid of me?
Steve wrestled with his gut.
I mean, you kind of
knew
got to do this.
This was a bad idea, but it looked like the only option he had. He opened the cell door.
Don't make me regret this.
You're not an idiot, Trevor. You're a fool.
Vegeta blasted a hole through the corridor wall and flew off toward the horizon. The thing he hadn't mentioned was that the armor would allow him to flee if his life was in danger. Steve cursed himself and ran down to the beach. He just failed as the last line of defense, so maybe he could at least help out there. Once he arrived, he saw the situation wasn't as Vegeta described it. Things were in fact worse. Hammond and Scarecrow were keeping the Amazons at bay with the help of Doflamingo. Diana was struggling to free herself from Tar Pit while being forced to take charge attacks from Livewire in the process. The only piece of good news was that Giganta was too busy cackling to help in the assault. Steve took a chance and grabbed the spare Amazonian shield and dove in front of Livewire's attack, blocking the lightning long enough for Diana to break free. Wonder Woman was shocked to see Steve on the beach. She looked up towards the palace and saw the broken wall Vegeta had left. Then, to the horizon, as she could just make out a speck speeding away as fast as the armor would allow him.
Steve Trevor, you are a fool.
Yeah, I know.
What possessed you to let him out?
Guy got in my head. Said he'd come help and that the armor wouldn't let him escape.
So you gave him a chance?
Yeah. Listen, Angel, I'm not the type to say I told you so.
I'm sorry. Are we interrupting something?
In a quick motion,
I mean, tell him that
Steve
nigga
Trevor
here.
was picked up from the ground and lifted 10 stories into the air. He was used to pulling positive G's in jets, but this was without any warning. Giganta held Steve like a toy in her hand,
Yeah, he
far
got
away
different
from the
versions of
Amazonian
her?
princess.
My turn, my turn. I want to play with Special Forces, Ken.
Meanwhile, halfway across the world, in a basement lab belonging to LexCorp headquarters, Superboy was being quizzed once again.
What's the protocol when arriving on a crisis scene?
Assess all threats. Neutralize them in risk order.
Good. What about optics?
Never use more force than necessary. Protect risk to property and people.
Back on the battlefield, Gigantus squeezed Steve with so much pressure, his ribs began to crack.
I got my nigga
Yet,
Steve.
she was only playing and clearly holding back. Wonder Woman flew to try and free him, but Livewire came back again to hold her at bay with another huge bolt of electricity. This time, however, she deflected the energy back at Giganta, causing her to drop Steve. Wonder Woman flew down to catch him in the nick of time, but as the pair landed, Tar Pit began to rush in to
they need
overwhelm
help
them
you
yet again.
motherfuckers.
But just as the massive asphalt hurled itself through the air at them, he was blasted away by a large purple beam. Wonder Woman and Steve looked in the direction it came from and saw Vegeta as he began to float down to the ground. Before they could say anything, more barrages of white lightning shot across the battlefield at the Prince. Livewire was still fully charged and threw bolt after bolt of energy at Vegeta. At first, it seemed the beams had taken him by surprise, but then they started to travel less and less distance as Vegeta unloaded blasts of his own to push back the volley of voltage sent his way. The Prince quickly closed the gap and began to overwhelm Livewire, who just couldn't keep up. She attempted to stop firing and vanish, but the beachfront was not her ideal battleground, and there were no electronic devices to conduct herself through. She ran out of time as the blast from Vegeta finally reached her and detonated point blank, knocking her out cold. Giganta had been out of the battle, recovering from her own hit of Livewire's energy when she kicked a huge mound of sand at the Prince, the shock of it doing more harm than the physical force itself.
Another of Wonder Woman's toys for me to break. Oh, but this one's so tiny. I won't be able to have any fun.
Vegeta smirked to himself through the dust
shit.
cloud. All the jokes he'd heard so far were about the worst damage any of the Earthlings had done to him since his battle with the Justice League. The Prince decided now would be the time to remind them all of the kind of power they were mocking. He vanished from the ground and appeared directly in front of Giganta's face, and grinned at the look of shock that overcame her when she caught up with what was happening.
You wouldn't hit a woman, would you?
Vegeta vanished again
Get the fuck
and
out
delivered
there.
a spinning kick to Giganta's right cheek that instantly sent her hurtling to the ground, her large figure causing huge waves in the ocean shallows as she landed. She rubbed the cheek that Vegeta kicked and attempted to speak, but had to spit out a chip from one of her teeth first.
Oh,
Huh? I think I hurt its little feelings. Boys, I might need some help.
Come help her if you want, but you'll all be on the ground next to her eventually.
Vegeta floated down to the
Hey,
beach,
Vegeta.
where Wonder Woman came to meet him. As the other three invaders began to approach, and Giganta rose to
Oh,
her
what that
feet,
face?
Diana began to call a quick battle plan.
I'll handle Doris. You keep those three occupied, but I warn you, don't underestimate them.
Oh, I'm sure they're a real threat being sent off to deal with your support. Why don't you just go attend to the fool? I can handle what's left of this trash.
Be serious. Dr. Crane uses chemicals to make you see your greatest fears, and Hammond can tear your mind apart if you let him in.
And the other one? What's his trick?
He'll eat your face.
Ugh, it
Pause.
disgusted me when Mad Harriet did that.
Yes, well, Vegeta, thank you for coming back.
At that, the two royals took off. While Wonder Woman engaged Giganta, Vegeta worked up his defenses to deal with the other three.
Protocol for mental warfare?
It's off-brand to appear as anything other than a stoic symbol of strength. Psychic attacks must be dealt with without losing face.
Scarecrow came charging in, which was rare for him. Vegeta simply grabbed the doctor's wrists and held him back. Suddenly, a burst of smoke erupted from all over Scarecrow's body. Vegeta was engulfed by Crane's most potent fear toxin.
Ah! Worms! Slithering all over me! No!
A mighty one you may be. So was your oaf who blew out the candle on Coast City. Yet trounced by the bad man was he, who picked the pocket of my toil to claim victory.
Okay. Okay.
Vegeta dropped his act and delivered a single blow to Scarecrow's gut, instantly knocking all the wind out of him. Dr. Crane dropped to the ground, clutching his gut in the fetal position, shivering in pain.
Pathetic. Did you honestly think a trick that worked on Nappa would have any effect on me? You're going to die for the insult.
Vegeta charged up a blast, but suddenly he felt the armor kicking in a way he hadn't even realized was possible. Previously, when he trained with it, or even when he'd attempted to escape his cell, the weight would come and then soon level off. But now, it was taking all his strength to remain standing, and yet still, its weight seemed to increase exponentially. His energy beam dissipated as he was no longer able to keep the physical focus required to maintain it. Quickly, he was forced to the ground, but still the armor grew denser, forcing him to sink into the sand. It was the malice that caused the armor to react this way.
Is it? Oh,
his intention stopped being to win the battle and became murder. He would have killed Crane if not for the armor, and now he was just as helpless as the Doctor, and preying on the helpless was what Hector Hammond knew best. He'd been hiding this time, waiting for Crane's fear toxin to take hold so he could use Vegeta against Wonder Woman. But now was likely his only chance to enter the prince's mind and completely incapacitate him. And so he began to peel back the layers of Vegeta's mind, searching for the hardest memories, the kinds people force themselves not to think of.
Oh, shit.
The deepest, buried, and hardest to relive. Hammond had planned to force Vegeta through all of them at once and reduce the prince to a vegetable, drooling in the sand. However, given Vegeta's tortured childhood and apocalypse, Hammond hardly had to try. Every match against Darkseid was bubbling at the surface, every humiliating defeat, every crushed hope. And as Vegeta lived these memories yet again, the voice of Darkseid rang out in his head.
You grow weak as you cower under these Amazons. This resurgence of pride is pathetic.
Oh,
By
damn.
my tutelage, you were instructed that attachments are folly. The notions of love she has sucked you upon are lies. There remains only one uncompromising truth. One that you have always known. Darkseid is...
The mental assault was too much for the prince. Any hope he had of regaining his mind to call off the mystic armor was lost, as Darkseid's words threw his intentions into a fury. All he wanted now was to kill, and so the armor would not cease its growing density. Vegeta felt the waves of the shore begin to touch the tip of his hair as he was pinned into the sand, and for a brief instant, he felt hope. The armor would mean no one would be able to move him. Maybe he'd be lucky enough for the tide to come in so he could drown. An awful way to die, but one that would lead to an end to all this suffering. Yet Vegeta could not be so fortunate, as the final villain on the shore appeared in his line of sight. Al Flamingo stood over the Saiyan Prince, holding
Vegeta
a
can't get cooked
special
like this.
knife. Even if Vegeta had the energy to prevent the attack, Hammond's mental assault had robbed him of any ability to focus it. Al Flamingo's stomach growled as he licked his lips, preparing to carve Vegeta's face off. As Al Flamingo began to place the knife, he was suddenly rocked across the head by a large rock held in the hands of Steve Trevor. Al Flamingo dropped like a stone. The flamboyant mercenary passed out on top of Vegeta.
Just want to say, if you didn't try to go AWOL, I would have moved them off you. You're welcome, by the way.
Hector Hammond grew outraged from his position down the beach. It seemed to be all down to him and Giganta now. He decided he'd make quick work of Trevor and then help ground Wonder Woman so they could finish the mission they'd been sent to do. Hammond reached out with his psychic powers and entered Steve Trevor's mind, only to see
Boy.
a beautiful woman, an army nurse,
Tsunade.
undoing her bra in a hospital supply closet. She moved forward and kissed him. Of course, it wasn't Hector she was kissing, but Steve. However, that didn't matter to Hammond. He was experiencing Steve's memories from his point of view. Hector began to drool on the beach. He had no idea Trevor had such exquisite memories. Steve
good
Trevor
memories right
lived
there.
the kind of life Hammond had always
Some great
dreamed
memories.
of. But he quickly felt his breath draw short. As Hammond opened his eyes, he saw Steve Trevor's hands around his neck, cutting off his supply of oxygen. He tried to push past the memories he so craved and find some fuel to use against Steve, but it was too late. Trevor's gambit had paid off. His study of the Argus files and Hector Hammond made his contingency plan work perfectly.
Okay,
Being
Trevor.
a known pervert made distracting the telepath too simple.
Doris, you're all that's left. We've done this before. Surrender now, you know you can't win.
Oh, fine. Need to go see a dentist now anyway.
How do you deal with breakage after a battle?
Securing all civilians and making sure they're safe?
Wrong. Secure assets. The police will handle the populace. Only you can save the buildings and properties. That's enough for today. You scored an A-. I'm disappointed.
Damn.
In the aftermath of the battle, more Amazonians began to crowd the beach, tending to their wounded sisters. Diana made a call into the Hall of Justice and arranged for the villains to be teleported away. Vegeta remained pinned to the sand, the ocean tide now brushing against his ears. Only Diana had the strength required to lift him and carry him back to his cell. She told Steve to go wait for her in the palace as she made her way back to the wall the prince had blasted through. She laid Vegeta down in his cell and closed the door. As she was about to leave, Diana stopped. The same prince was usually so talkative. Being bested by the strange tricks of Earth's foes had clearly shaken him.
Your help today. Thank you for coming back.
I'm not one to be indebted to another. We're even now. That's all it was.
The prince
Okay,
needed to say
Vegeta.
something to save face, if only for himself.
I'm sure. You still
Yeah,
don't
you was
understand that
getting cooked.
armor, do you? In the battle, it stopped you from killing. So you still need work. I love my friends on the League, but they have a gallery of villains and rogues, each longer than I can remember, each obsessed with violence, with revenge. I, however, I do not. There are some who feel that way about me, but they are few. I detest seeing you in this cell. The Amazons do not take prisoners. We save people from their worst impulses. We believe in a greater life for all. I see potential in you. Your past need not define the path of your future. I believe you fought today because you wanted to help, but if your true intention was to escape, then that armor would have never let you leave the ground.
Or, now that I know how it truly works, I can simply push past it in the future.
That could be. I suppose there's only one way to know.
Wonder Woman held up the lasso of truth. Vegeta flinched at the sight of the glowing rope.
Don't you dare come near me with that vile thing.
I acted with anger before. That was wrong. There's nothing to fear from the truth. Trust me. Here, I'll leave this with you. Just be careful. Absolute truth is more powerful than you could ever hope to realize.
Wonder Woman draped the lasso across the cell bars and left Vegeta alone. It took some hours before he was able to move again, the armor finally letting up as his mind calmed and focused on the golden perfect that hung in his line of sight. Night came, and the prince did not sleep. He stared at the rope, unblinking till his vision blurred. But the magic of this planet vexed him like no other. He hated it. Just another trick, things beneath a true warrior. But the words he spoke when last wrapped in it They were his. He had tried to deny them for so long, to repress those thoughts because they seemed weak, but the words he heard today, the words of Darkseid, would not cease in his mind. The words were not from Darkseid's lips, only Vegeta's own thoughts. But that was the true horror of Darkseid. No matter how far from the god of evil he was, the tyrant resided in the darkest places of his soul, as is the case for every being. The words about Diana, however, hit the hardest. The prince was a true warrior. That's all he'd ever been since birth. Attachments were a weakness he did not suffer. Vegeta stared at the lasso of truth, and finally grabbed it.
I do not care for her. I do not care for her. I do not care for her.
Hold on, Vegeta.
Certain of his words now, Vegeta wrapped the lasso around his arm.
I do I do care for her.
The prince threw the lasso to the ground in anger. The armor began to increase in weight.
Vegeta in love
The
now.
mix of his rage at the lasso and his attempts to lie, engaging its enhancements.
Fine. Darkseid was wrong about breaking me after all. I stand now a prince reborn. Why shouldn't I care? I'm the prince of all Saiyans. I'm owed someone like her after all. Yes, I deserve her.
Vegeta then looked down at the lasso. He was so certain of what he just said. All he wanted was confirmation. So he picked up the lasso again and wrapped it around his hand. He thought the words.
I deserve.
He felt the pull of the lasso as the words caught in his throat. But this was no bluster, no clever ruse. This was true. He was more than certain.
Okay.
It had to be true. He drove his energy up, trying to force the words out.
I deserve.
But still, they would not come. He could not complete the sentence. No matter how much he wanted this to be true, it seemed it was simply not.
I don't deserve her.
He was finally forced to admit, as his energy left him, all expanded in an instant.
Oh, shit.
The armor that had been steadily increasing in weight, buckling his knees and forcing him to the ground. But he didn't care. The lasso fell from his hands as a final truth escaped his lips. A truth that lifted a great weight from Vegeta. Not from his body, but from his soul.
Damn, Vegeta. Oh, we got a little animation? Okay.
I deserve nothing.
Super Saiyan Vegeta. Ooh. With the animation. Oh. This was a fire chapter. I was not expecting this. The animation that they was perfect, was beautiful, man. Shout out to the Geek for fun, man. This story is great. Man. I can't wait to see the next chapter, man. Make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe. Check out the last chapter right here. Check out another story right here, and I'll catch y'all next time. Peace.